Uchi felt her breath hitch as the weight of those words settled over her. She had spent her life dreaming of love, of a future where she would stand beside Ibuka and build a life together. But now, with her grandmother's revelation, those dreams seemed to crumble into dust before her eyes. She clenched her fists, her mind racing as the flickering fire cast eerie shadows on the walls of the hut. Was this why no one had ever spoken of their weddings? Why her mother had always carried that distant look in her eyes? "What do you mean all the women in our family are cursed?" Uchi asked, her voice barely above a whisper, though the tremor in her tone betrayed the fear gripping her heart. Her grandmother leaned forward, her eyes filled with sorrow, the weight of the past heavy on her frail shoulders. She traced slow circles on the wooden staff she held, as if each movement brought forth memories she had long tried to forget. The firelight danced across her weathered face, highlighting the deep lines of worry and wisdom etched into her skin. Her voice, though soft, carried the gravity of a lifetime of pain and knowledge passed down through generations. She reached for the wooden staff beside her, gripping it tightly, as if grounding herself before revealing the painful truth. Her voice, though old and weary, carried the weight of generations, of a story passed down from mother to daughter, a curse that had plagued them for decades. "It began with your great-grandmother, Chia. She was a stunning woman but filled with pride. On her wedding day, she insulted a river goddess, and in her rage, the goddess cursed our lineage. Since then, every bride in this family has been doomed on their wedding night. Their husbands vanish." Uchi's heart pounded like a drum against her ribs. Her wedding to Ibuka was only 3 weeks away, yet those few days now felt like a ticking clock counting down to an inevitable disaster. Her fingers trembled as she clutched the folds of her dress, her breath uneven. She had imagined this moment so differently, excitedly preparing for her wedding, surrounded by laughter and joy. But now, all she could think about was the looming shadow of the curse, threatening to steal away the love she had fought so hard to keep. "What happens if the curse isn't broken?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, as if saying it too loudly would summon her worst fear into existence. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. She swallowed, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions swirling inside her. What if she lost Ibuka before she even had a chance to call him her husband? What if she was doomed to repeat the same fate as the women before her? Her fingers clutched the fabric of her skirt, twisting it between her hands as her mind raced with desperate thoughts. Was there truly no way out of this? A deep shudder ran through her as the reality of her predicament settled in. If the curse remained, she would be forced to carry the same burden as her ancestors, forever yearning for a love that was destined to vanish into thin air. The thought sent a cold chill through her spine, leaving her staring at her grandmother with pleading eyes, hoping beyond hope for an answer that would save her. "You will never see your husband again. Before you can even say goodnight, he will disappear," her grandmother answered gravely, her voice carrying the weight of generations lost to this cruel fate. The fire crackled between them, casting flickering shadows that danced on the walls of the small hut, mirroring the storm raging inside Uchi's mind. The words hung in the air, suffocating her, pressing down like an unbearable weight on her chest. Her mouth felt dry, her fingers numb as she tried to grasp the reality of what was being told to her. "But there must be something I can do." Uchi's voice cracked as desperation clawed its way up her throat. She could not, would not accept this. Not without a fight. Her grandmother sighed, the sadness in her eyes deep and endless, like the river itself. That is what they all said, child. Every woman before you thought she could change her fate, and yet the curse remains. Uchi swallowed hard, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. If every woman before her had failed, what chance did she have? But deep inside, beneath the fear, something ignited a flicker of defiance. She refused to be just another name in the lineage of sorrow. Uchi paced the room in shock. As she processed her grandmother's words, she thought of the women in her family who had been abandoned. Could she truly understand their pain? For a moment, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. They were hopeful, just like you, but fate was cruel. Uchi took a deep breath. Perhaps she had to show courage to change her destiny. She turned her eyes to her grandmother, the storm within her still raging. Tears welled in her eyes as she thought of her mother, her aunts, and the countless women before them. Their dreams shattered in a single night, their love stories reduced to whispered tragedies. Was she simply meant to suffer the same fate? The thought made her fists clench. No, she wouldn't accept it. If there was even the slightest chance to change her fate, she would take it. Grandmother, tell me everything. I need to know how to fight this. Asterisk, asterisk. Uchi's cousin, Uu, who had been eavesdropping, burst into laughter. So that's why Auntie Adana's husband disappeared after their wedding. I always thought he ran away to America. Would you shut up? Snapped Grandma. What do I do? How can I break the curse? Uchi asked desperately. Grandma shook her head. Only the river goddess can lift the curse. You must go to the river, find her, and beg for her forgiveness. Beg a river goddess? Does she even speak Igbo or English? Go and find out, Grandma replied, waving her off. Uchi wasted no time. Armed with a basket of kola nuts, palm oil, and a gift Grandma insisted would please the goddess, she set off toward the river. Her best friend, Ada, tagged along for moral support. As they walked, Uchi and Ada spoke about the legends passed down in the village. My grandmother used to say that the spirits of this river sometimes take human form and speak to villagers. Maybe we'll meet one today, Uchi said. Ada smiled. Maybe, but our elders always warned that they aren't always friendly. River spirits test people, and if your heart isn't pure, they can lead you astray forever. A chill ran down Uchi's spine. Then we must be careful. If we encounter a spirit, we need to know how to respond. Just then, a whisper-like sound floated through the wind. They both stopped in their tracks, glancing at each other. Ada whispered, "Did you hear that?" Uchi swallowed hard and nodded. A rustling in the bushes made them both turn sharply. A figure moved between the trees, just out of sight. Ada grabbed Uchi's wrist. "We're not alone." The air around them felt thick with something unspoken, an eerie energy that pressed against their skin. The legends didn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Asterisk, asterisk. On their way, they encountered Obi, the village drunk, who was, as usual, already intoxicated. He smirked at them. "I know where you two little mosquitoes are headed. You're going to beg the river goddess to remove your family's curse, aren't you?" Uchi and Ada froze in shock. "How do you know that?" Uchi asked curiously. Obi chuckled. "I know everything in this village." Ada quickly pulled Uchi aside. "Uchi, you're really going to take the words of a drunk seriously? Let's go." At the riverbank, they met a peculiar fisherman named Okuku. casting his net into empty waters. "What are you doing here?" he asked suspiciously. "I need to see the river goddess," Uchi said firmly. Okuku burst into laughter. "You? See the river goddess? You'll need a miracle." Uchi ignored him and stepped into the water. Suddenly, the river swirled around her, pulling her under. Ada screamed and tried to grab her, but it was too late. When Uchi opened her eyes, she was in a shimmering underwater palace. The river goddess sat on a golden throne, her hair flowing like water, her face glowing like sunlight on a pond. Uchi gasped at the breathtaking scene before her. The underwater world was unlike anything she had ever seen. Schools of iridescent fish swam in intricate patterns as if greeting her. Towering coral formations glowed softly, casting an ethereal light over the palace. Giant, luminous seahorses approached her curiously, while a distant cave echoed with an enchanting melody. The aquatic plants swayed as if guiding her toward the throne. She felt as if she had stepped into a living dream, a world entirely separate from her own. "You dare come here, mortal?" the goddess said, her voice echoing like thunder. Uchi knelt immediately. "Please, I didn't mean to disturb you. My family has suffered because of the curse you placed upon us. I beg for your forgiveness." The goddess raised an eyebrow. "Forgiveness? After what your ancestor did?" "I am not my ancestor," Uchi cried. "Please, I will do anything to break the curse." The goddess smirked. "Anything?" Uchi hesitated but nodded. "Yes." At that moment, fear rose within Uchi. The gleam in the goddess's eyes told her this was a test. If she chose her words poorly, the curse could worsen. Uchi sank to her knees, taking a deep breath. She had to control her fear and choose her words wisely. "Great goddess, I am not here merely as a desperate granddaughter, but as someone who seeks to right the wrongs of the past," she said, her voice trembling. A faint glimmer flickered in the goddess's eyes, though her expression remained unreadable. "Before you judge me, I ask that you understand my intentions." A murmur rippled through the palace, and Uchi knew her fate was being decided. "Very well," the goddess said. "To break the curse, you must bring me the golden fish that swims in the river Niger before your wedding night." Uchi's heart sank. "The river Niger? But that's far." "Then you'd better hurry," the goddess replied. After Ada and Obi began their relationship, rumors spread throughout the village. Some whispered that Obi was not truly human, that he was a spirit in disguise. Others claimed he was a long-lost prince from a distant land. The village elders scrutinized his every move, analyzing his gestures and words. Ada ignored the gossip, convinced that all that mattered was how Obi made her feel safe and happy. But one night, she had a dream in which she saw Obi's eyes glowing as he vanished into water. A seed of doubt was planted within her. Was he really the man she thought he was, or were the villagers right all along?